Now it's time to give the space Lina Canas. She's here. She's the chair of the next session. Sorry, Lina, I give you the time a bit late, but the topic was very interesting. So
very interesting, yes, Beatrice. Thank you so much. Don't worry, it was well worth it. And thank you, Karen. Okay. It was an impressive presentation. And thank you, Beatrice, and to all organizers for the incredible symposium that we've been witnessing since Tuesday.
Well, the next hour is all yours.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to welcome you all to the session 9 on Astronomy and Inclusion, the role of women and girls in astronomy. And for the next hour, we will have the opportunity to hear very important works and very relevant to our community from our colleagues, Allyson from the US. I believe Allyson is already with us, correct? I think she wasn't present at the rehearsal. Okay. Hi, Allyson. And then we will have Paulina, that is reaching us from Chile. Then Silvia from Italy, Gloria from Puerto Rico, and Anna Curir from Italy. Each speaker will have 10 minutes, and I will notify you when 2 minutes remain from the end of your talk and at the end of your talk. On the end of the 5 talks, we will have some time for questions from the participants and from all the panelists. Please place your questions, your comments in the chat and the Q&A option. So without further ado, I want to call Allyson. Hi, Allyson. Can you turn on, okay, you already have turned on your camera, and also could you share your screen if that's possible?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just to test. Okay, perfect. So Allyson Bieryla from Harvard University, USA, and she will present LightSound, a sonification tool for solar eclipses and inclusive classrooms. Allyson,
thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. It's very early on the East Coast of the United States, but I'm happy to be here with everyone. Thank you to Lena and Beatrice and all the organizers for allowing me to speak today. As Lena said, my name is Allyson Bieryla. I'm from the Center for Astrophysics at Harvard and Smithsonian, and I'm excited to talk about the LightSound project that I've been working on for a number of years. I think I'll try to give a little bit of background about what LightSound is and kind of what we've done over the past few years and just look toward the future. So I guess in a nutshell, LightSound is a sonification device that we developed as an accessibility tool for the blind and visually impaired as a way to experience a solar eclipse. This project and idea kind of came about with my dear friend and collaborator, Wanda Diaz-Merced, which many of you probably know. Wanda herself is a blind astronomer, and she uses sonification as a way to do her research. She was at the CFA, the Center for Astrophysics, in 2017 when we kind of came up with this idea and started to develop it. And it was during the Great North American solar eclipse. And we were discussing ways that we could make the event more inclusive. Wanda was getting ready to head to South Africa to work for the IAU and was going to be working with students that are blind and visually impaired. And the whole world was kind of hyped up about this eclipse and her students as well. And so we were trying to think of ways that we can include them. And so in our development stage, the main idea here was to make the tool accessible to as many people as possible. So we really wanted it to be low cost, easy to reproduce. And so that was our kind of in the back of our mind all along. So we had this idea and we brought Daniel Davis, who's pictured here as well, into the mix. He's the director of lecture demos at Harvard, and he's really good at making things appear physically. So we went to him and he helped develop this this first prototype. So this is the first version of the LightSound. And as I said, it's a sonification tool. So the idea is to convert light to sound. And so it's pretty simple in concept, but I'll kind of just walk through the parts here. This board here is an Arduino board. It's a microcontroller. So you can think of it as a small computer where you can upload a simple program to it. You can also attach different components to it. So this is the microcontroller board. We have over here this high dynamic range light sensor. So it can accept very bright light, also works in very low light situations. And as many of you probably know, also a total eclipse is something similar to about the brightness of a full moon. So we need something full sunlight and also low light like a full moon. There's also an audio output here. So this is your speaker output. You can attach the headphones, you can attach the speakers. We have a port here that goes to a computer, so you can also charge the device that way, or you can connect to a computer if you have one and collect data. Now, it's not required that you have a computer. We also have a battery pack that runs on a 9-volt. So that's the idea. Bright light is mapped to a high sound, high pitch, and then low light to a lower pitch. So we had our prototype. So in 2017, I was going to be here in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Wanda's pictured here with her students in South Africa. So I streamed the event on YouTube, and Wanda and her students were able to listen in, as did others around the world. And we also had 2 devices in Kentucky. This is data that was collected from Morehead State University. So it was a great success. We had our prototype and things worked. So that was very exciting. But there was a lot to improve on. So in 2018, Soleil Hyman joined our group. She was a Harvard undergraduate at the time. She's now a University of Arizona graduate student. And she really helped a lot with this project. She worked on the redesign of the LightSound device. So here's the first version picture on the left. And then we have the more updated version here on the right. So a couple key changes were made. We have a new light sensor now. So it's just a slightly better light sensor that we found. So it helped with the dynamic range a little bit. We have a new microcontroller board that works with MIDI technology. So we have this MIDI synthesizer here. So the key part here is we really wanted to improve the quality of the sound, and to do that with MIDI, you can attach different instruments to different sounds, and it really helped the sound profile quite a bit. Also note that Soleil, while she studies astronomy and physics, she is also a musician, so that helped a lot. And then, of course, you could see here we have a nice custom case, which just enclosed everything nicely. So Soleil also worked on really documenting the data. We really want everything to be open source because, as we said, we want to make this as accessible to as many people as possible. So we have all the instructions on how to build all the components, diagrams on how to wire things, how to upload the data to the device, as well as just the code that runs it. So I also developed a couple Python scripts that allow you to collect and plot data easily. That was really nice. And then we started working on some lesson plans. So we wanted to adapt this to classroom and outreach programs as well, not just solar eclipses. Some of you probably know about the Inspiring Stars exhibit. We were really excited to be part of this. And this is a picture here at the Vienna IAU meeting. This is just Soleil demonstrating the device. We were happy. So Inspiring Stars is an international traveling exhibit that highlights some inclusion and accessibility tools. We're one of the devices and tools in that exhibit, so we're very excited to be part of that. The exhibit traveled to many countries throughout 2018 and 2019. And then in 2019, we were given an IAU grant to build and distribute 20 of these devices for the South American solar eclipse. So Beatriz Garcia and her group led the effort to build in Argentina, and so they built and distributed the devices here across the path. And then Soleil and I built and sent the devices for the Chilean locations. And Erica Lab and Paulina, who's going to be speaking next, were key collaborators in those areas. And Paulina is going to talk a little bit more about the actual South American eclipses and some of the development that went on in Chile. And I was just thrilled. Unfortunately, didn't get to physically go there. I was hoping to be with you this week, but COVID, right? But I was just thrilled to see some of the photos and hear some of the reaction from people that were at these events come back. It's really rewarding project. I'll note that one of the things, this picture especially, I think shows that, there's many thousands of people in this picture, but there's one LightSound device here on the table, and it's connected to a speaker. And so the device costs about $70 to build, and the impact from that one device can impact many people. So that's—
Sorry, Allyson, 2 minutes.
Thank you. So that's the key here is just you're able to impact many people with one device. One other thing is that we were able to translate all the documentation to Spanish as part of this project. So that's what we hope going forward, that we can work on even more translation to other languages. I'll just point out here in 2019, there was an annular eclipse in Malaysia, and a group led by Hape Murtaz built 5 devices across Malaysia. I wasn't directly part of this, but they were in contact, all along the way, and it was a successful event. They used the documentation that we provided, and you can see here again, one device connected to a speaker can impact and make an entire event accessible. So I just want to play you a quick sound clip. So this device is the same device I've been talking about, but this is a video courtesy of Paulina, and they have their own custom cases that they make. So hopefully you can hear this. I'm going to turn up my sound. So this is the high pitch flute level, and then this is the simulation of the eclipse. At the low level, it gets like very low. So you could hear the change. Obviously, an eclipse takes time, so this is a sped up version, but just to give you an idea of what the sound is like. And so really, I just, we're starting to think about 2024 in North America. So the eclipse last time went from like northwest down, and here we're going, up. So I don't know where I'll be along this path, but I'm definitely thinking about it. Weather is going to be a key. So here's the links down here and my email to get documentation and reach out. But we've developed a workshop, a 2-day workshop that we debuted at the American Astronomical Society meeting in Hawaii last January. And it's to build and use the device. And we hope to run more of these workshops at the AAS and other conferences to get word out and to collaborate with others, because we can't do it alone. So thank you for listening. And
thank you so much, Allyson.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to hear more about LightSound accomplishments, and it's also a pleasure to be able to collaborate with you. And we are fortunate to have you in a direct collaboration with with Inspiring Stars and other projects around the world. Thank you, Allyson.
Thank you.
And now I would like to call Paulina Troncoso Iribarren from the Universidad Central de Chile. And she will talk about listening, the eclipses and diversity in our surrounding. Paulina, thank you so much for being with us.
Hello. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Yeah, nice. So, yeah, as Allyson say, we were like sort of boost with all this motivation with the LightSound, and we decided to start building it here. So this experiment that we are doing here, I would say, at least for me, is driven and motivated for my dear friend Wanda when she brought the first devices here in 2018. And later, well, this was, let's say, changing because she motivated even more people when we had this record of the eclipse. And as Allyson say, they ship us 12 devices along Chile, and we were able to enjoy it in an inclusive way for first time, the eclipse here in Chile, and we got a lot of people involved. So the point here was that we started working with the main group, these 5 persons that are in the middle, a little bit before the eclipse, because with 12 devices, let's say we were short because everyone wanted to have it. We circulate information in social networks that we will transmit the, the sound of eclipse, and the media was just reacting like very active, and they start writing to us. And the 2 kids, Javier and Carlos, that you see on top, were my students in this moment, and they started playing how to do it. Also Henry, the student of Erika. And well, here's my husband, he's an astro engineer. And we started like as a family, all of us trying to see how we can reproduce it and follow the instruction that Allyson just gave. And we had very nice evenings playing, burning things. And finally, this year, this team even grew up a bit more with these 2 persons here that are in Temuco, also building LightSounds, and Ignacio, that was also joining the core team. So I have to say we succeed on the 28th of June of last year, few days really before the eclipse, with this case that we create, this cyan case. But on the 26th, we were at this level, just burning things. And the first case that we had was this one. We could not find the same case that Allyson had, and we did not have a way how to acquire someone here. So we print one in 3D. And well, this video I will not play because exactly what just Allyson showed to you. And we were going with this development. So we say, what do we do for next year? And we point to the massification of this concept, and we say, how can we do it? So the first thing that we did, we say, okay, we want to reuse the battery of the laptops to fit the devices. So, and how do we plan to do this? We start collecting the bad batteries from the people who wanted to donate it to the project. We applied to 2 funds and we got both. Very happy about it. And with this money, we say, okay, how do we lower the production cost so that we can distribute as many devices as we want? And this was also motivated for a different reason to the one that Allyson say. I had like this idea that the people who could not see could just take the device, for example, to a national park and listen the clips with their families, like in a closed environment. So not necessarily that because you have some you cannot see, you have to share it with the rest of the people. So this was like the one of the aims, but with the COVID, it is, let's say, it changed a lot. So we are ending up with the transmission and all these things. So we rely in 3 Chilean companies who brought us very nicely all the supplies, electronic supplies, the cases that you see, and also the acrylic plaques that we created so that you can see the electronic inside, and we can motivate young people to say, yeah, why not? There are only 3 plates inside, some wires, why I cannot do it? And with this, we inform the community, and we submit an online form that we got so many requests, and we started with the distribution. This this was our idea. I really like to show this picture because we wanted to give this LightSound in person in the south of Chile. Well, this is Camila. She's leading the transmission of the eclipse on Monday, the Chilean transmission. And this is Erica, well, you know her, also doing another device. But most of them were going like this in boxes with another kit from the years of the Doscopio. This finger telescope is the name of this group. And they sent a tactile kit for the people, 140, and we put some light sounds in for certain people who wanted to share the signal. So we were playing with the electronic that Allyson say, and here there is a bit different video because we implement music. So here is the device sounding, and here is Erica placing a fake moon. And when the moon, when the light is covered, the instruments are just switching off. And when the light is coming back, the instruments are included. So our intention was that this personal use, that the people could start implementing their own most loved MIDI song in the devices. And I have to say on this, we are a little bit late on training the community. It's not an easy task. So we wanted to implement a melody, as I say, for the eclipse itself, for a transmission. And we were a bit complicated with this because we started speaking with some musicians that are this Rodrigo Kowasi and Igor Lederman to create a special, let's say, song to give us sensorial joy also for the eclipse, but something that we can listen. And of course, if we are lucky on Monday and we don't have clouds, let's see, we will try our luck. And the music that we started to implement, I choose these people because they are playing this, let's say, ethno music with some instruments that are related to astronomy, to ancestral cultures of Latin American in general, not only to the south of Chile. And he's playing instruments that there are written on, were drawn in the stones, but we don't have it now anymore. And he's trying to reproduce the sound of these instruments.
Sorry, Paulina, 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And he's trying to do this with all these instruments. So here is he's showing this in a museum, and we were working together to create something, let's say, an experiment. I will call it a musical experiment mixture with science. And what we did here at the end was to take, this is why I put a lab here, to give an order and the amount of music that we want to put on it. So we started working, as I say, for the MIDIs. We lowered the cost of the LightSound to $20 with the Plex that we bought here, like more than 100. But if we wanted to go to the quality of this music in MP3, we had to go to the Raspberry, basically, and this was really rising the cost, and we could not ship it everywhere. So we say, okay, we are also in COVID time, so let's do a transmission with this nice music. And the musicians were so motivated that at the end, they created a full disc that is called Cyclic Sounds of the Eclipse, based on this music that I will not play now because I don't want to give you the spoiler. And we will transmit this on Monday. Sorry, here I wrong the date. And we will speak the first, we will transmit the first half with the direct sound of the LightSound. And when the totality arrives, we will have a surprise with this really nice music. And the music that we will play this day is not a full disc, it's a mixture of different songs that we believe, well, I say we, I include also Carlos, a visually impaired person who help us to track, let's say, our perception of this music. And we will play with amount of times, the orders of the different songs to give like the idea of the eclipse during this transmission. So I just want to invite you for this transmission to follow it on next Monday. It will be really, let's say, different. It will be in Spanish, I'm sorry, but the music is without any language, with the idea of giving this sensorial joy. So here I think I have to stop.
Thank you so much, Paulina. This was so interesting. And indeed, it's incredible when we all collaborate and everyone can add on and add up to the projects. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and good luck with the transmission for Monday. I would like to call my next colleague, Silvia Casu, for Istituto Nazionale di Astrofisica, the Osservatorio Astronomico di Cagliari, Italy. And she will talk about the inmate sky, astronomy in a juvenile detention institute. Silvia, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Silvia.
Perfect. So good morning to everybody. First of all, let me say thanks to the organizer to give me the opportunity to be here today to talk about this particular project, which is called Cielo. I cannot speak Spanish, but following the suggestion by Nestor Camino from the very first day, my slide will be in both in English and in Spanish. So the project Open Up Sky, Apriti Cielo, Abrete Cielo, is a pilot project of astronomy education in a juvenile detection institution based on a formal agreement between my home institute, the Italian Istituto Nazionale di Astrofisica, and the Sardinia Center for Juvenile Justice. Well, talking about in astronomy inside a jail could be perceived as a bit paradoxical, because I'm sure that for most people, the word astronomy evokes the images of open dark skies, perfect infinite spaces, beauty, and probably or definitely the idea of an ultimate freedom. So why we should talk about astronomy to people who live in a distressing situation, locked in a well confined space, deprived for a short or long term, long period of their own freedom. Well, if we think about the word education, the real meaning of education. So, well, the word comes from the Latin word educo, which means lead, take out. What is education? So education means lead out principles, values, rules of behavior, which are valid for the daily life inside the juvenile institution, but also in the external life where inmates will come back once the sentence is over. In a broader sense, so educating in prisons means educating to freedom, to live it in a profitable way for oneself and for the others, to take responsibility for their own choices, and so definitely to grow. And educating through astronomy means to, how can I say, brings back to elementary, to primary experience for all. Space, skies often constitutes a place with which you have an affective relationship. Let's think about the moon, for example. And so leads us to reflect on transversal themes. And this is exactly what we mean when we talk about astronomy for a better world, which is not only a powerful slogan, is a lifestyle for me. So following this main idea in February 2020, we signed the formal agreement for the project Open Up Apriti Cielo, Open Up Sky, which is a program of astronomy educational activities for young men inside a juvenile detention institution. The project is based on activities whose methodologies have been agreed with the educational responsible of the institution, and is based on PBL and project-based learning approach centered around the learner. And attendance of meetings have been fixed once a week in the afternoon. The project was supposed to start in March 2020, but has been postponed due to the pandemic. And we discussed with the responsibles of the jail to start anyway in online modality, but we preferred not to alter the nature of the project, because the presence was one of the very important part of it. So the project started in August 2020. Till now, 15 meetings have been held in presence, involving 12 young men in total. And the project is still in progress, and so a lot of other meetings are scheduled. Once a week, so on a regular basis. We adopt a constructivist and constructionism approach and principles, privileged learner-centered and collaborative approach with active participation by these young men. And during the project, we use different educational tools. So we use storytelling contest, describing scientists' biographies to be linked with the inmates' lives and experiences. We use thinkering to introduce research methods and processes. We used hands-on activities to introduce astronomy objects and phenomena. And we also introduce coding basis to promote the computational thinking. We also succeeded to organize a stargazing event, of course, inside the jail, with all the natural limitations due to the artificial security lights. Unfortunately, as you could easily understand, we don't have pictures of the various activities, even if we obtained to send some pictures in very particular moments. And so we I can show you two of the most engaging activity. First of all, the Stargazing Event. For the inmates, it was the first time at all they approached to a real telescope. And for most of them, the first time they really watched the sky. So they were completely excited, they were completely fascinated by this activity. It was a really a big success. Another funny activity was the well-known tinkering activity of
Silvia,
scribbling
2 minutes.
machines. Yes, okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. They spent almost 2 hours committed to the activity, and they had a lot of fun. I can show you just some of their creations. I can believe me, they created wonderful objects, extremely different projects from one of the other. Of course, we faced some general and specific difficulties because they are a very heterogeneous target, coming from different nations, having different ages, social, school, religious backgrounds, coming from different kind of crimes and distressing past experience. So they could experience an initial mistrust, in some cases complete indifference to the project. And they could be limited by the fear of judgment and by the lack of knowledge of different lifestyles. In addition, in jail, there is a general lack of real autonomy. We cannot use freely any kind of materials and tools for the hands-on activity, for example. Last but not least, some young, for different reasons, well, they exited or they are being transferred from prison during the project. So it took time to establish an emotional, educational relationship with them. To face all these problems, we benefit of the professional advices of a psychotherapist she's following us in all the steps of the project. Anyway, even if the project is not well completed, we can summarize some lessons learned and some outcomes of the project. We promote the use of astrophysics, astronomy, astrophysics, and space science to encourage and support the self-determination and self-expression of the individuals, regardless of gender, social status, culture of origin, and of course of committed crime. Even if it's very complicated, enter inside the jail, it is very important to talk about astronomy inside prisons. By providing a new point of view, new perspectives for involvement and participation in culture and knowledge formation processes, we aim to help people to find and maintain, of course, complete control over their own decisions and definitely on their own lives. Again, it is important to be organized but flexible.
Sorry, Silvia, time is,
and
please.
to able to follow the interest and change plans at the last moment. And to be patient and to keep a positive approach, a positive mood in all the part of the project. And remember, look at the young man, but not their mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Silvia. This was quite interesting, and there's I see already there's a few questions for you at the end of the of the session. Now I would like to call Gloria Isidro Villamizar from the Caribbean University, Puerto Rico. Hi, Gloria.
Thank you, Lena.
Hello. Gloria will be giving her presentation in Spanish with the slides in English. In the true spirit of our inclusion session, we will be very diverse in the language in which we present this following presentation. And Gloria will talk about the accessible astronomy activities for the blind and visually impaired in Puerto Rico. Gloria.
Thank you,
Go
Lena.
ahead. Thank you.
¿Se escucha bien?
Yes.
¿Ves?
Yes.
Presentamos el diseño y el desarrollo de actividades accesibles para personas ciegas en Puerto Rico. Estas actividades las iniciamos desde el año 2006 en el Observatorio de Arecibo, en la Universidad de Puerto Rico, y en colaboración con la Fundación Comunitaria de Puerto Rico. Cuando se visitaba el radiotelescopio del Observatorio de Arecibo, se escuchaban voces como ¡wow! Era impresionante poder ver el radiotelescopio. Pero para una persona ciega, ¿qué significaba ese wow? Esa admiración de todas las personas que desde un balcón o un mirador se podía observar el radiotelescopio. Fue necesario entonces hacer del Observatorio de Arecibo un observatorio accesible a las personas ciegas. ¿Cómo lo logramos? Lo logramos diseñando un modelo desarmable del radiotelescopio de Arecibo, acompañado de una cartilla donde explica las partes del radiotelescopio, otra cartilla donde explica las definiciones importantes en astronomía y preguntas frecuentes. Lo diseñamos con la ayuda de estudiantes de la Universidad de Puerto Rico, estudiantes ciegos que nos ayudaban en el diseño. También en el Observatorio de Arecibo, en el siguiente año, 2007, estuvimos desarrollando materiales para hacer un taller dirigido a astrónomos y dirigido a maestros de educación superior en cuanto a cómo enseñar a una persona ciega las fases de la luna. Ya en el 2008 desarrollamos un taller donde preparamos estudiantes universitarios, incluyendo 2 estudiantes ciegas totales, que estarían trabajando como voluntarios en todas las actividades del año 2009. Para desarrollar este taller fue necesario crear materiales táctiles, diseñar materiales tridimensionales para que nuestras 2 mensajeras siderales ciegas totales pudieran atender al público en general en nuestras actividades. Iniciando ya entonces el año 2009, tuvimos en el centro de visitantes del Observatorio de Arecibo el juego el bingo en break a jugar con Galileo, un bingo con cartones en break, con letra agrandada, con textos sobre el sistema solar. Participamos en las 100 horas de astronomía, en donde tuvimos una asistencia, una gran asistencia de un total de más o menos 100 personas ciegas de todo Puerto Rico que estuvieron presentes en la conferencia bienal de asistencia tecnológica del PRAD de la Universidad de Puerto Rico. Ahí presentábamos imágenes al relieve, presentábamos el modelo desarmable del Observatorio de Arecibo. Fuimos invitados a estar en la conferencia de Ciencia y Astronomía en Israel en la inauguración del Año Internacional de Astronomía 2009 en Israel. Y al siguiente día eso fue en Haifa, y al siguiente día viajamos a Fula, donde desarrollamos un taller para estudiantes que se preparaban para ser maestros de educación especial. Los estudiantes estuvieron preparando materiales al relieve de la forma como lo estábamos haciendo en Puerto Rico. Los medios de comunicación en Puerto Rico, como canales de televisión y periódicos, divulgaron las actividades que estábamos haciendo ya en el 2010 en colaboración con el Observatorio Astronómico de la Universidad de Valencia. Evaluamos el prototipo del modelo de la luna táctil, para luego entonces tener ya el modelo final de la luna táctil elaborada en España, un modelo que fue evaluado con personas ciegas en 10 países diferentes. Y después de la luna vino el sol. El sol, estuvimos trabajando el sol táctil con la dirección del artista, escultor ciego Luis Felipe Pasalacqua, quien dirigía el taller de escultura Manos que Miran. Trabajando como voluntaria en ese taller, pudimos lograr hacer el sol como una pieza de escultura. Continuando con nuestros trabajos de escultura para el Año Internacional de la Luz, desarrollamos el modelo de la galaxia, un modelo táctil. Cada vez que desarrollamos un modelo, escuchamos la voz de nuestros colaboradores, personas ciegas, y tenemos en cuenta los principios de diseño universal para el aprendizaje. En este caso específico del modelo de la galaxia espiral, tuvimos en cuenta que el modelo se pudiera coger con una mano y que la persona ciega con la siguiente mano pudiera palpar, pudiera encontrar el núcleo de la galaxia y pudiera encontrar los brazos. La textura del modelo de la galaxia es bien suave. Es importante cuando diseñamos materiales para personas ciegas tener en cuenta la textura que provoque realmente tocar, que el tamaño sea un tamaño adecuado, que la persona que esté al lado de la persona ciega también disfrute y se apropie de ese conocimiento que nosotros estemos explicándoles en ese momento. Luego del Año Internacional de la Luz, en el 2016 desarrollamos Marte con Arte. Marte con Arte es una pieza de escultura en donde de forma exagerada se expresan las características de la superficie marciana. Se puede al tacto encontrar el Monte Olimpo, la cordillera de Taxis, el gran volcán, la carita feliz. Esto fue una presentación que hicimos en colaboración con el Museo de Arte de Caribbean University y las diferentes asociaciones de personas ciegas a quienes invitamos para...
Gloria, perdón, 2 minutos.
Okay. También desarrollamos el modelo de las antenas ALMA, modelo en papel, 66 antenas elaboradas en papel, las hicimos en el 2016 y las llevamos a asociaciones de personas ciegas, divulgamos el eclipse solar en el 2017 con el libro de NASA en breve. Celebramos los 50 años de la Luna en el Museo de Ciencia de Puerto Rico Así que, ¿qué pasa ahora con el COVID? Pues no podemos hacer nuestras actividades para que esos materiales se puedan tocar. Por eso entonces estamos haciendo videos para que todas las personas puedan conocer de las actividades que nosotros desarrollamos. Continuamos también desarrollando materiales tridimensionales para futuros proyectos. Así que muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Gloria. It's always a pleasure, and it's always amazing to see your history with inclusion and your activities, and that span over well over a decade. And thank you so much. It was fantastic. I would like to call now my colleague Anna Curir from INAF, Osservatorio Astrofisico di Torino, Italy.
Hello.
Hello, Anna.
Hello, Nina.
Anna will talk about women in astronomy and in sciences, cracking the code with the third culture. Welcome, Anna. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Beatrice and all the organizers for this beautiful and inspiring meeting. And do you see my presentation?
Yes, yes, you may go ahead.
Okay. So I would like to share with you and discuss with you a particular point of view about women in astronomy and in science, starting from the book that I think everybody knows by C.P. Snow, where he lamented the gap between scientists and literary intellectuals. And Snow was also proposing a third culture where the two communities were have the possibility of speak each other. But we can also see an uneven distribution in gender amongst academics in the fields of art science, with men clearly predominating. In some fields of the humanities, there is a predominance of women. So there is an uneven gender distribution amongst the two cultures. The gap between humanities and science has been deeply investigated by the intellectuals of the so-called third culture, who want to promote a new alliance between the scientific culture and humanities. Such an alliance will give rise to a new culture where the two communities of intellectuals can have a fruitful dialogue. Inside such a third culture, each community would take advantage of the point of view of the other. For example, philosophers could benefit of the rigor and nature-centered point of view of scientists, and scientists can take advantage of the critical attitude of philosophers. But a third culture would also unify arts and science, because the creative processes in arts and in science are basically the same, because artists and scientists are involved in the work of intuiting change of perception and materializing it for others to experience, see, and ultimately change. And a third culture would be more multidisciplinary and less sectorial. And in the document, UNESCO document with the title Cracking the Code, Girls and Women's Education in STEM, it's a document that want to give the state of the art of the participation of women in STEM and promote action to improve the situation. And as we said, women's distribution is biased also by these two culture hypotheses. And the support to a third culture would be a support to equity for women in science. The fight against stereotypes to crack the code or to decipher the factors that hinder or facilitate girls' and women's participation in STEM, and particularly in astronomy, must take into account the persistent dichotomy between the so-called two cultures and the uneven distribution of women between them. Girls are often brought up to believe that STEM are masculine and that female ability in this field is innately inferior to that of men, whereas they do not feel so inferior in humanities studies. This can undermine girl confidence and willingness to engage in this subject. Teaching astronomy as a third culture discipline will have a central role in determining girls' interest in this subject, providing equal opportunities to access. But astronomy, if we think about astronomy, we can say that it is an old third culture, because in the ancient culture, the fusion between astronomy and mythology is so complete that there is no distinction between them. So in ancient astronomy, in a narration, the myth and the observations and measures were interlaced. So we can really say that astronomy is the first third culture. But also modern astronomy and cosmology are important examples of sciences which were progressively abandoned as a science based on human centrality in favor of a perspective where the man is projected in a stream of time. Therefore, astronomers and cosmologists are forced to think in terms of natural history, which links together cosmology, biology, history, and science. Also because of such a structural opening, astronomy and cosmology have the connotation of a third culture. Evelyn Fox Keller stressed the ubiquity of metaphors in scientific discourse, necessary for generating knowledge about a world which is not yet known. One seeks understanding of the new by comparison with that which is already familiar, but still what we confront is something new, not quite contained in the world we already know. And indeed, the essence of a life metaphor is precisely the juxtaposition of similarity and difference. And what gives its value in the logic scientific discovery is precisely the instability it generates by virtue of its insistence of both similarity, because we are in a world that we know, and the difference because we are studying something new. Fox Keller put emphasis on both acceptation of both the competing metaphors about light, light as particles and light as waves, and the new quantistic paradigm was created by overcoming this duality and accepting both the metaphors. At the object of astronomy are many metaphors at a time. A black hole, for example, is an exact solution of Einstein equation, but also an active galactic nucleus, a radio source, an X-ray emitter. So, if ancient astronomy was a third culture integrating observation and narration, modern astronomy is a multidisciplinary culture integrating many different disciplines and metaphors. It has been argued in some cognitive psychological studies that whereas men tend to look for abstract and theoretical argument, women are more apt to make a connection between ideas and larger context. It's often argued that women are more oriented toward and better at assimilating diverse forms of information, whereas men prefer to isolate explanation and excel in tasks requiring more local processing. If women intelligence is more naturally more multidisciplinary, the perception of astronomy as a multidisciplinary culture, third culture, should encourage women to challenge themselves in such a discipline. Moreover, overcoming a gap between humanities and science, we approach a third culture will provide a fertile ground for women's sensibility and for a holistic approach to nature. I quote here a study by Roten and Firman about women in this interdisciplinary science.
Anna, sorry, 2 minutes.
Yes, okay. They say at the end of the paper, gender gaps in science are complex issue and a justifiable concern for reason of social equity and for assurance for diverse skilled workforce in science. Thus, making better use of the talent of female scientists has been a prominent policy objective for at least a quarter of century. As the limited data here may suggest, it does seem that interdisciplinarity could serve as a strong entry point into scientific studies for women. So my conclusions are that it could be that women are well positioned to make major advances in interdisciplinary research. They may like to integrate across fields and approaches. At the same time, using interdisciplinary to attract women as well as other underrepresented minority groups into science could lead to a stable and secure pathways through scientific and academic careers. These 2 points could be more enhanced in the field of astronomy due to its intrinsic nature of third culture science and interdisciplinary science. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, for the wonderful presentation. And I apologize, we are really running out of time. I want to thank all presenters for the wonderful presentations. We do have several questions, so I ask our presenters to look into the chat and to try to answer as much or comment as much as you can. Here we will have time for 2 questions, and the first one would go to my apologies, I'm just checking my notes, would go to Silvia, and we have a question from Ugo that asks, what kind of inmates does the project work with?
Well, we worked with 12 inmates from 16 years old to 23 years old. So they were very heterogeneous by age. And they were inside jail for different kind of committed crimes, coming from theft to drug dealings, but also serious crimes like complicity in murder, and serious aggression. I don't know, the attack, something like this, and very different of by their nation. One from Senegal, coming from Senegal, Egypt, and Tunisia, Romania, Bosnia, and all the other were from different parts of Italy. So the most important difficulties we faced on was the extreme heterogeneity of these people.
Thank you, Silvia. And as a follow-up, and I believe you already answered that, Jose Gomez asked what was the main problem in working with young people
I think that
prison.
this is the most important difficulty, and then their attitude, because they were not forced to follow these activities. So at the very beginning, they just stay a couple of minutes and then just shake their shoulder and say hello, hi, and went away. And then maybe the next time they come back and just pretend not to listen, but to watch from afar. And so you have to be extremely patient, just listen to them and wait and talk about all the things that I like to talk about. And so transmit patience, transmit my feelings. So.
Thank you, Silvia. Just one more question, a very quick one. I apologize to Gloria from Cumico. Which spiral galaxy did you make the tactile model of? I believe you already answered in the chat, and I appreciate. I just wanted to share with everyone. ¿De qué galaxia espiral hicieron ustedes el modelo táctil de la galaxia espiral? I apologize for my Spanish. It's very, very bad. Gloria, if you want to answer Kumiko's question.
Para los modelos que hacemos, modelos táctiles, utilizamos las imágenes de NASA. Para la galaxia espiral utilizamos la imagen de NASA, la NGC 1232.
Thank you, Gloria. For our colleague Allyson, there's also some questions and follow-up of wanting to know where the resources are, where can we find further information, and also to Paulina, I apologize. So there are these questions I believe Allyson already answered as well. So you can look into the chat and follow up on and some comments as well for the project. I apologize again. I give the word to Beatriz. I thank you all for being here today, and thank you to the presenters, Gloria, Allyson, Silvia, and Paulina. Thank you so much. You are wonderful. The work you've been doing is very valuable.